Hello and welcome to round one coverage of Grand Prix Atlanta. I'm Brian David Marshall, joined in the booth by Eduardo Sajgalik. And Eduardo, we are going to see, that is not the correct match that we're looking at there. There you see one of the other matches that's in our feature match area, Stephen Burke and Hayden Bedsall, but that is not what we're going to be watching, I believe. Oh, sorry. All right, we had a switch here, so we are going to be watching this match. Sorry, my bad. So this is Stephen Burke playing white-black tokens. He's up against Hayden Bedsall. I'll try to find out what happened that we had to switch that match out. It could be that one of the players was not prepared. But in the meantime, you see a champion of the parish lead things off for Hayden. And
right.
Stephen Burke says, what's your plan here? I'm going to take a look with this Thoughtseize.
I think Stephen Burke did not ask himself what the plan is when he sees Ancient Ziggurat champion of the parish as an opening. Probably some other humans coming. But here, interestingly, Stephen taking the Meddling Mage. When you're on a deck like white-black tokens, it's not a very common metagame deck. So I'm a bit surprised that Stephen took the Meddling Mage over something like a Kitesail Freebooter, which would give Hayden full information on Stephen's hand, and then be able to, I would have preferred taking the Freebooter here because it's always going to hit, while Meddling Mage against Swamp Thoughtseize, you're not sure what you're facing. So I think here, Freebooter would have been a better line. But again, if you're wondering what you're going to see in this matchup, this is really about board control. The white-black tokens deck is going to try to control the board by playing spot removal on the key threats, like Champion of the Parish, leaving the humans deck with kind of its generic value creatures, and then that Vault of the Archangel with tokens would dominate the board to such an extent that the humans deck wouldn't be able to overcome it, at least in game one.
So what card do you think Stephen was trying to protect here from that Meddling Mage?
I am actually not certain, and that's kind of... I guess Fatal Push would be the only one, but even then, I mean, Hayden would have to play the Meddling Mage and get it right, so that's why I was...
Well, he knew that did he know the Freebooter? No, he would have taken the Freebooter if he'd seen that, so...
Yeah, so again, that's why I would have taken Freebooter. Freebooter doesn't require work. You just play it and you're happy. and basically with Stephen's hand, all the options were there. Freebooter is exceptional against the white-black tokens deck. It's like one of the better cards that the human deck has access to.
So I apologize, by the way, for just letting people know that Antonio's match was going to be on the feature match. That was the plan, but his opponent was a little late to the match, and don't know what happened there, but we'll probably bring him into, maybe next round we'll get a look at what he's playing. Fair
enough, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, showing an opponent versus nobody probably isn't great.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that can happen, but I've definitely won turn one in Modern.
I was going to say, there are certainly some Modern matchups that feel that way.
Yeah.
So Path to Exile takes out the champion of the parish.
It seems like Stephen took out that champion during his own turn, which I would probably have done it at least on Draw Step. Draw Step is where you want it. The humans deck now typically run 2 basic lands, but if they run 1 and they draw it in the Draw Step, you're still not giving them access to the mana, but that way you maximize the chances of them drawing their basic land plus not getting access to the mana. And yeah, you can see her Phantasmal Image with Kitesail Freebooter, and this is just tearing Stephen's hand apart.
Yeah, he's there. Okay, we're going to get that Spectral Procession out of your hand. And then what? I know the Vault of the Archangel was the land. And what were the other 2 cards? Were you able to make those
was so Spectral Procession was thinking it was Intangible Virtue, Zealous Persecution, which isn't an issue. That was actually a pretty hard pick because Stephen was at least another white source away from that Spectral Procession. An Intangible Virtue might have been the pick, but it was quite close there. Intangible Virtue can be quite an issue for the humans deck since once the tokens are 2/2, it's way harder for the humans deck to push through for damage.
Yeah, and Hayden,
I'm not sure. That pick is really hard for me.
Yeah, and Hayden immediately just pops a land there, draws a card, and there's a Noble Hierarch. There's another Freebooter. So that was a pretty good turn for him.
Yeah, I think at this point you could take the Zealous Persecution to protect the Noble Hierarch, but it also makes combat awkward. I guess the second virtue has less value anyway, since making 2/2 flyers is already going to be such a big deal. I mean, at this point, Steven really wants to top deck Lingering Souls.
All right. And then, as you see, we have an advantage bar now here for our main matches, and we get to sort of see a sense of maybe who's got the upper hand here, similar to what we do with the Pro Tour.
Yeah, here
Wow.
here it's difficult to actually move the advantage bar, just again because like any top deck from Steven is so powerful, and Steven's
Like fatal push into fatal push here. As
right, exactly. That's a good example. And you know, Steven isn't in a position to. Hayden's not in a position to really deal that much pressure, so that's why it's actually quite close still.
Again, does that on his turn there.
Is that another Phantasmal Image?
So Kitesail Freebooter gets in for 2. It's a little boost there from the Noble Hierarch.
Oh, sorry.
And there's an Aether Vial. One of the most feared cards in this deck, but you know, not as much here on turn 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm pretty fine with my opponent playing Aether Vial on turn 5 or 6. That's exactly where I'd like to see it.
There's a second copy of Intangible Virtue.
Right.
But nothing to, no fodder to make that card great.
Yeah, at this point, Hayden just has to deal as much pressure as possible before Steven gets any of the creature-producing spells. A Lingering Souls would be horrific. I mean, just 2 free frees with Vigilance with Flashback. Yeah, and
there's a Naked Reflector Mage.
I think that's correct. You really need that curve to go up. All the token producers are going to be such a huge issue already. You're not going to be able to grade through one by one. So I think the Reflector Mage here is correct.
And he knows he's not under any threat from that Spectral Procession. Only 1 white source right now. 3, maybe you can convoke your Intangible Virtues to cast it.
Yeah, well, just a single white source would be enough, right? Since it has 2 colors as an alternative cost, so white source would do it. Ooh, Thalia's Lieutenant here. Let's see, this is really good. This puts Steven down to 1. So at this point, Hayden is putting Steven down to 1, and a Spectral Procession would have to block all, but Hayden has access to 4 creatures, so there's not really an out here. Yeah, Steven can decide to pay a life. That wouldn't go very far, but he can pay a life.
Plays the Marsh Flats, but can't do anything with it. He's like, I'm going to attack you. And he's like, okay, let's go to game 2.
Yeah, and it may not look like much, but the Reflector Mage was important there. You could wait, but that's not the point to wait. Yeah,
that's the difference of 1 turn there for Steven. If Steven gets to crack that Marsh Flats, get a white source, and play the Spectral Procession, that's 3 4/4 flyers.
Let's see. Well, it would have been free 4/4 flyers, but then
one of them is going to get bounced.
Right, and you still have Lieutenant, Noble, and Kitesail Freebooter, so it would have been just enough, but it could have mattered a lot. Something like, we were a land off something like Lingering Souls plus Flashback too, but it could have been,
So let's see what we have here in the way of deck lists. We don't really have them yet. You know, one of the issues in the early rounds of the tournament is you have, 1,000+ deck lists, and they need to be alphabetized, sorted, and then someone gets to bring them to us. So.
Yeah, I saw a really interesting card while Steven was looking for the deck in start to finish, as well as new tech from Ixalan. New tech for Modern, it's new. Legion's Landing. I really like both of those. Legion's Landing is just efficient. Like, it's not the greatest token, but once you get the land transformed, it gives you quite a large advantage over the course of a game. And then you can leverage your kind of removal spells and your land to take over, especially with something like Intangible Virtue. Making a 2/2 or free lifelinker every turn is serious business. The start to finish is okay, but you can see here Steven boarding in Wrath of God and most likely more sweepers, since again, this is about board control. Steven will eventually get there. Given infinite time, Steven will be able to play a sweeper and take over by playing a lot of tokens. Hayden's sideboard plan, the Humans deck back then used to play Zenfrid Necromancer, but I believe that's not really in many sideboards now, so that was a card to fight kind of mass removal. But they usually just rely on the package of Kitesail Freebooter, Meddling Mage, with Phantasmal Image as support to kind of make sure those sweepers don't take effect. You're also going to see Hayden very likely board in Izzet Static Caster. Not great if there's a intangible virtue.
Right.
But otherwise, it's, very powerful. Like being able to destroy all tokens turn after turn. Even like something like Izzet Staticaster plus Phantasmal Image is more than enough to take over the token deck. So you really need like that second intangible virtue. So when Steven's on the play, that can be quite difficult to achieve. Like you might have an issue of time. But if Hayden loses game 2 and we go to game 3, Izzet Staticaster is going to be really a house. What Steven's going to rely on is sweepers and planeswalkers to take over. So if you want to see Steven win here, you're going to want to see that pattern. Sweeper with a planeswalker or a token producer to protect the board and taking over. Hayden, probably just, again, a little more pressure than we saw in game 1. Freebooters for disruption. And then down the line, is it Staticaster to take control of the board and push through that damage?
Right, yeah, worth noting, not a particularly strong draw out of the Humans deck compared to what it's capable of doing, and it still looked pretty good.
Yeah, the main thing was that freebooter. Again, that was why I was surprised Meddling Mage was taken. Because you have multiple ways to get rid of a Meddling Mage, and Kitesail Freebooter is so good against the white-black tokens deck. Essentially, it's as close as you can get to a Thoughtseize effect, because there's almost no creature in Steven's deck. There might be, I don't even think there's one. It's all non-creature spells. They all make creatures, but I don't think one of them is an actual creature. It's planeswalkers, sorceries, and instants. Okay, and enchantments. We have some
Some
types.
enchantments, okay.
Yeah.
So he's very good at boosting his opponent's Tarmogoyfs.
He even has tribal with Bitter Blossom. Well, white-black tokens usually plays Bitter Blossom. It tends to be one of the best natural turn 2 plays. It powers out a lot of your deck, so usually a pretty important inclusion in these decks. Yeah. But that card in front of Hayden's hand, by the way, we didn't really see it much in game 1 because it went to the graveyard fast. But Horizon Canopy is probably one of the best cards in Modern just because it allows you to have a mana base that filters. So these decks don't run 18 lands, which is what they need to operate, but they don't flood out as a result. And yeah, you can see the difference here as well between Thoughtseize on the draw and on the play. But both Vile and Noble Hierarch make that a less interesting proposition.
Tough call here.
I think it would be an easy call if you had one of those, but with both, I would be inclined to just say fine, because I can't really stop either, both. You're going to play the other one.
And he's going to take the Thalia.
Which I believe is correct. I would have to see Steven's hand, but I believe it's correct to take Thalia. Thalia, again, we have no creatures, so essentially Thalia says all your opponent's spells cost 1 more, which Steven is not really interested in seeing in play.
So he does take the Thalia, but that does mean Hayden gets to have a powerful turn 1. Curious to see which way he goes here.
Yeah, it's always a question, but with Champion of the Parish, it's a little easier. Because then you can go Champion of the Parish and then turn 2, play land, Aether Vial, Noble Hierarch, deal free damage, and have a good mana development. So yeah, the Champion of the Parish was a great card off the top of the deck here.
All right, now Steven Burke, no turn 2 play.
That's Anguished Unmaking, from Shadows of Innistrad in Steven's hand.
Oh, is that okay?
It's kind of a weird card to have in the white-black tokens deck post-board against humans. You do want spot removal, but it's one of the worst. You have access to Fatal Push and Path to Exile, which almost do the same thing, but you don't lose free life and you pay a third of the mana.
So there you see Hayden playing, as you said, Noble Hierarch, getting a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Parish. Then the Noble Hierarch also, as an Exalted trigger, gets him in for 3 damage here.
Yeah.
Steven down to 15 after his Thoughtseize.
Noble Hierarch is
and
just
dropping as he fetches.
Yeah, but Noble Hierarch is just greater than the sum of the parts, and you just see a Y right there. Just being able, this has to be the best mana-producing creature of all time. Birds of Paradise is probably the most iconic. It came second in that Magic bracket to Lightning
I was
Bolt.
just going to say, yeah.
Poetically to Lightning Bolt. The bird was bolted.
Right, I was going to say 25 years of Magic history, and ultimately it ends with the bird getting bolted.
In the finals, yeah. But no, I think, Noble Hierarch is the best mana creature of all time. Just compare it to Llanowar Elves. It's tragic. And yet you play Llanowar Elves still in Modern because it's an elf, which is an interesting tidbit, right? The larger the card pool, the more very small details matter.
So now you mentioned a card that you'd seen earlier, start to finish, and now we're going to see that card here. I believe that's what that is, right?
That is what that is, but isn't start to finish an instant? I mean, when you have Anguished Unmaking in your hand, there's definitely a lot of merit to just, yeah, it's an instant. You might as well just pass the turn here. The Humans deck has almost no instant speed interaction. Vile at 2 could be an issue with Kai'Sel Freebooter and Meddling Mage, but at 1, you're fine to just say go most of the time, so... I mean, there's definitely a space to play spells at sorcery speed, but this is not the place, really. There's not really an incentive to do so.
You see Hayden pointing to his Horizon Canopy. He's taking damage from it. 3 mana. Also tapping his Noble Hierarch. What is it going to be?
It's a Knight of Autumn, but I believe that should be a Dryad, right? I mean, I'm not caught up on my lore quite yet.
Wow, Knight of Autumn, just another, a Guilds of Ravnica card coming down as a 4/3 here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, Humans has quickly adopted the card just because it's so versatile. Like, you can bring it in kind of Reclamation Sage style, right? You're like, oh, my opponent might play a card like Warship, which I can't deal with otherwise, so I need Reclamation Sage. But the difference with Reclamation Sage is that when Reclamation Sage is bad, it's really bad. But you can say bring it in something like the Humans Mirror, and the versatility of gaining 4 life, very important, or destroying, like, say, an Aether Vial. Like, even then it can be okay. I don't know if it's exactly the card you want on Humans Mirror because it's, not a human. But yeah, I think Knight of Autumn is a really nice inclusion in these human sideboards. And I think in the future you're going to see like 2 or 3 in the sideboard just because, again, you bring it in to deal with a card like Ensnaring Bridge, but if they don't have it, you could just play it as a 4/3 and deal a lot of damage. And a 4/3 for free is very serviceable.
Right. And a 4/3 that often comes down on turn 2.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're going to see Path is going to take out the 4/3.
Yeah, so recently Humans lists have run Basic Island. Those have Vigilance. Sorry. It's just like my mind. You know when you see like a game and like something goes wrong, you get a twitchy eye. You're like, this has to be corrected. Thankfully, Hayden is ever vigilant.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hayden plays a lot of Modern. Someone we've seen a lot playing on the Star City tournament series, and someone who he's taken a little bit of a step back from Magic for his LSATs.
I think that's a good move to study. Well, I mean, diplomas are like pretty good lifetime value. Like they give you a lot of equity in your existence on this planet. So,
right, sometimes end up giving you jobs that afford you the luxury of playing even more Magic later on.
Exactly, that's the way to look at it. But yeah, so here, by the way, Hayden not fetching a second basic. Most Humans lists played 1. Some more recently have played 2. They might have cut back on it, so it does fluctuate. But you can see the power of something like Ghost Quarter, Path to Exile, and Field of Ruin as kind of this micro mana denial strategy.
So at the end of the turn there, you saw Hayden put a Champion of the Parish into play with his Aether Vial. Ticks up his first champion.
Yeah, I think with the Path to Exile, it might have been better to use the Field of Ruin on the unclaimed territory here, and then get a basic Plains to use it. But yeah, I mean, to be fair with Hayden having access to Aether Vial and Noble Hierarch, there are likely not going to be mana issues.
All right, so in comes the 3/3 champion and a 1/1 champion. And Hayden's like, well, block.
I would double block here if you decide to on the champion. Although I would see Aphalia's Lieutenant from this. That was okay. Yeah, in this spot, you want to usually double block the other champion. There's probably not much reason to block the larger champion since it will get larger, so taking the damage here, you're going to save more damage down the line.
I wonder if that means Steven has a sweeper in hand for next turn.
Yeah, that's what I would like. If I was Hayden and my opponent blocked that way, I would be worried about a potential sweeper. So the Knight of Autumn may not have entered play, but it's close. Since, let's see, you have 4. You have more than enough pressure. I probably wouldn't have played the Knight of Autumn in this spot. But since Steven doesn't have a sweeper, this is I believe really Hayden's probably going to take this one
the
down.
Anguish Unmaking. That's going to cost him
Well,
some life.
This game's done then.
Yeah.
Since Steven decided to tap out at, 8, so we're done.
Yeah.
As long as Hayden remembers how to tap permanents, we're good to go. I might as well boost all these champions. Let's deal more damage. But yeah, Knight of Autumn again here. It's a really good card in a matchup like this. It's a good example, right? Because it's a 4-free beater, but had Steven played something like a Bitter Blossom, you could have got rid of it. You can get rid of an Intangible Virtue, and yeah.
Somewhat counterintuitive, as you said, indicated earlier when you talked about it being a Dryad, that it doesn't necessarily go in the humans list, but it gives you so much versatility.
Yeah. I mean, I only mentioned it because Hayden played it pre-combat when there was no reason to. You could have played it post-combat. It wasn't like that was why I was a bit surprised. I was checking the creature type, but yeah, it's just so versatile, right? It basically does what Reclamation Sage did in that spot, but it's so much more because of that versatility. Being able to, like, say, win a race or just beat down the opponent, which is the most likely option, is really important.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see, I would imagine if there's a deck we're going to see most often this weekend in the feature match area, it would be the humans list.
Yeah, I mean, humans is like kind of the de facto modern deck now. For a long time, there hasn't really been an aggro deck or aggro disruption deck in the mix. It was kind of limited to Merfolk, and humans kind of fill that gap. So, and because it was a gap, it got filled like quite extensively. There are a lot of people that decided to play humans because it fit a play style that existed but wasn't very competitive in modern, and now it's filled that gap, and more people get a chance to play that. And I think in modern it's important because people like to play with the strategy they want to, and that's a key part of the format, is you can go like, I'm a control player, I can play a control deck. I want to play a weird artifact deck, that is fine. I am at my house.
All right, we got more Magic coming up for you after this, but first we have a couple quick messages. Welcome back to the booth. That wasn't so bad, right? We've got more Magic coming up for you. Let's head down to the feature match area, and we are going to see Panama's most well-known player, Saul Alvarado. Back at the Old World Championship, he played for the Panamanian national team 8 times, and that's before the World Magic Cup, where he's been the captain of the team every year since then.
Yeah, it's just a emeritus Hall of Fame, Panama champion, national champion Hall of Fame.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about Panama and Magic, you're going to immediately go to Saul Alvarado. If you were playing in some sort of guessing game show kind of thing, you'd be like, Saul Alvarado. His opponent, a little less experience. His opponent is Luke Freeman. Luke's going to college at Clemson. He's a junior, and this is his first GP this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get into it at some point.
He's been playing Magic for a while, though. Goes all the way back to Shadows over Innistrad. So, only playing for a few years, and here he is on camera. So we'll see how he does. He's playing Bant Spirits.
Yeah. You saw Game Free. Don't worry, we're seeing all free games.
Yeah, it was not.
I guess spoiler alert.
Luke Freeman opens up with Noble Hierarch, a card we saw plenty of in our other match this round, and a card, would you say, maybe the most prevalent creature we'll see this weekend?
Noble Hierarch is definitely one of the key creatures, but something interesting here, if you're playing Modern, you would have been able to tell the archetypes within the first 2 land drops. Saul Alvarado would have been on a variant of Blue-White Control with Celestial Colonnade, maybe Jeskai, but when Luke goes Botanical Sanctum Noble Hierarch, you know that most likely Luke is not actually on humans, but on spirits. Spirits is really one of the only decks in Modern that does that opening, and the Botanical Sanctum is kind of what betrayed that deck here.
Now, what is the attraction of Bant Spirits over humans?
So, Bant Spirits plays a little more instant speed. Something like Spell Queller is a big attraction. So,
a card I almost felt like Hayden's opponent may have been reflexively playing around. Or, you know what I mean? Like, he was trying to think of creatures that might ambush him, and so played stuff on his own turn. But more relevant here in this match. Yeah,
definitely much more relevant here. The thing is, Saul is already. Oh wow!
Wow, look at this!
Wow!
Off the top, he searched for Iskanta. He found a Terminus.
That is actually insanely huge. On turn 2, you're already 2 for 1-ing your opponent. You're stunting their development. They can't even fight back. Terminus, and this is going to make the Bant Spirit's life really hard. Spell Queller doesn't stop something like Terminus. And yeah, you can already see at least 1 Path to Exile, 2. I'm going to have to say, Saul Alvarado is already pretty far ahead between that Terminus and the 2 virtually dead card in Luke's hand.
The double mulligan there for Luke Freeman.
And I mean, that's one of the biggest attractions to control decks, in the history of Magic, is just, you need more lands, right? So you're losing cards that way, but they lose cards because they have to play removal spells, respecting the creature decks of the format. And then you're like, well, I don't have really any of those, so you're kind of on your own there. Yeah, this is going to be a really tough one. Oh, wow. Is that a 3rd Path to Exile? This is not the matchup.
Oh, wow.
One of the better cards, though, for Luke here is that Moorland Haunt. But between Saul having Terminus and Path to Exile and getting rid of all the creatures, and by not putting them in the graveyard, plus that Field of Ruin being able to get rid of Moorland Haunt, it's kind of a non-issue. At this point, Saul's just happily going to play lands, play Teferi, and take this one down.
Wow, look at this. A Teferi just right on time.
Yeah, just don't queue. This is ABC control Magic. Oh, well, you add in a 1-mana Wrath of God style effect, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, it's really going according to plan here. I don't think there's much that Luke can do here. You need the Collected Company in Luke's hand is actually pretty relevant. Here, Drogskull Captain.
Yeah, Drogskull Captain. That's going to resolve, it looks like. Now, maybe a card like, I don't know, Geist of St. Traft, if he's playing that, would that be something that would give Luke a shot? I've certainly seen it in some Bant Spirits lists.
Yeah.
We don't have our deck lists up yet for this round, so.
Yeah, Geist of St. Traft would have been pretty helpful. Saul having access to Settle the Wreckage doesn't help, though, here. So Saul with Settle the Wreckage plus Path to Exile would have been able to, say, settle when the Geist attacks, and if there was a Spell Queller, then you can Path to Exile. Here with Captain, though, Saul has to be careful not to let Luke untap, since I don't believe Saul has access to counter magic in his hand at the moment. So if Luke untaps with the mana with Captain and then gets into a collected company, that may be a way for Luke to come back in the game. I think Saul's really far ahead. So at this point, it's really about how can I make sure my opponent doesn't come back in this game? And I think the answer is getting rid of this Droxel Captain, since 2 captains would be a problem. Although, Saul has access to Mana Leak. This is actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
Since even if Luke went for a collected company, you'd be able to stop that. Another Droxel Captain, you'd be able to stop between the path and Mana Leak. I think Saul is like very, very ahead here.
Yeah. And just in case he doesn't feel enough ahead, in 4 turns he's going to resolve an Ancestral Visions.
Yeah, let's just be more ahead.
That's a lineup of doom if you're playing against a control deck game 1. You know, Teferi, an Ancestral Visions ticking down, and of course that Search for Azcanta, which even if it never transforms, is still just offering your opponent constant card filtering of the top of their deck.
Yeah, and you just know that thing is going to transform at some point. You have to play Magic. You have to play spells. You have to run your spells.
All right, well, here's a Spell Queller.
Here's a Mana Leak.
Yeah. Fine, Eduardo, you
I've seen this script before. It doesn't look good for Luke Freeman. I mean, now Saul does still need to draw something. Otherwise, that collected company could get Luke a miracle.
Right. But Saul's going to be looking basically at 3 cards a turn here if he needs to. 2.5 cards a turn, let's call it.
Quite a few, yeah. Essentially, at this point, I think Saul wants something like Cryptic Command to lock out any top of the deck. Just plussing Teferi. Take it, at a relaxed and
he's like,
nice pace.
See, now we've discovered exactly how greedy Saul is. He's like, I have enough Ancestral Visions. I don't want one here.
Yeah, and Saul here drew Terminus, which doesn't seem great when you're not Miracle Enid, but the truth is, with this much mana, you're okay with just doing it later. Like, just playing the Terminus and getting rid of creatures is totally fine because you have the mana and there's not much Luke can do game 1. Again, Spell Queller, not exactly designed for 6 mana spells.
Look at this Celestial Colonnade coming in for Saul Alvarado, playing a little aggro here.
Yeah, I mean, this makes sense to me. Like, you just Saul had doesn't really have access to anything else, so might as well get in there. 4 mana kind of already represents anything worrisome.
And no white land showing for Luke Key on that turn.
Yeah. I mean, if your colony gets pathed, whatever. It's not that bad. Like, it's like a path to victory, but it's not necessary. The only thing that the
reality is you're just going to Teferi them to death, right?
Is it really to death? It's kind of more like a slow and inexorable. It feels far more miserable. Like, you have nothing. Nothing's there. You can't do anything. Just constrained until your deck tells you you're done with this match of Magic.
I got to tell you, I do love this white-blue control deck, but I would be disinclined to play it without buys.
I mean, why not? Like, if you have the stamina, you're good to go. And Saul has proven stamina over decades of Magic.
That's true. That's
so we're
fair.
fine.
But that is a very long day you've set yourself up for when you know you're going to be playing round 1.
Yeah, but...
I mean, even your easy matchups don't go quickly.
No, right. Like, Saul has virtually won this game. I mean, there's like a world where Luke chains a number of spells and Saul has no answers to them, which is not a world I believe exists, but it could happen. But yeah, that Teferi going towards its inexorable march and negate that.
Yeah, negate a collected company here. That was a main deck collected company. I mean, main phase collected company from Luke Freeman.
It's a bit strange that it was main phase compared to something like end of turn, but...
All right, well, now...
Since you're setting yourself up for Terminus, potentially.
Transformed the Search for Azcanta.
Yeah.
And another land drop, essentially, for the control deck, plus an incredible engine.
Well, at this point, you have Teferi and you have Ancestral Vision coming. So we're going to see all of these lands go away. I mean, at this point, you just say go and wait. You wait until all the permanents are gone. Oh, wait, there's another Teferi in hand. You might as well play that. My apologies. The hero's downfall was greatly exaggerated. Teferi just went for a little time loop.
Wow. So there's the emblem from the first Teferi. Now we're going to play another Teferi. Going to draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're done.
Going to exile something.
We're just done. Come on.
Wow, look at this.
This is, I mean, I've seen my cat play with a toy recently, and this feels vaguely reminiscent.
All right, Luke draws for his turn. Again, we find the taunting Ether Vial.
I mean, you can try.
Yeah. Here's Collected Company again.
It's not really.
I mean, Saul could just like let everything resolve.
Saul
he doesn't even care about.
Saul could have let it resolve, but you might as well Snapcaster
Yeah.
negate, whatever. Yay!
Okay.
We go to game 2.
All right.
I mean, we were already going to game 2. It was just a question of time. But I mean, you say it was a long day. It took 10 minutes for that game. It's fine.
That's
Totally
not too bad.
respectable amount of time.
Let me ask you a question about Luke there.
Sure.
Someone playing in his first Grand Prix. You've certainly all played against someone early on in their Magic career. And, you know, there's a lot of pressure on you not to scoop, right? Play it out, play to your outs. How important is it to know when to scoop and go, okay, that's it, and not drag that game out for 3 extra turns?
I think Luke did the right thing there, which was maybe a little overboard, but not overboard. Like, basically, Luke went, look, I'm going to give it a shot until, like, it's very obvious I'm done.
Right.
And the point where Luke was like, I'm going to have no lands in play
Right.
was the right point.
Saul was going to draw 5 cards next turn.
Yeah, it was all of Luke's lands were going to go away. That was definitely the right point to say, I'm done.
All right, well, this is a much better start for Luke here. Kicks things off with an Aether Vial, and then Thalia comes down on turn 2 here.
Yeah, also, I remember my first Grand Prix. I had the chance to not be on camera for it. I mean, I was awful. Let's just say it how it is. But yeah, here you're going to see Luke essentially Thalia Guardian of Thraben, one of the best sideboard cards against a deck like Blue-White Control. When all the Blue-White spells cost 1 more, that's a pretty important tax to have here. But yeah,
so for example, if we had Search for Azcanta in hand, Saul would not be able to play it until turn 3. It just sets you back a full turn, and sometimes things that you could do, double spells, you can only do 1.
Yeah. Here, what's going to be interesting to me is if Saul decides to pass and path. I would imagine that Saul's plan is to opt. Saul might decide to path anyways. Okay, it seems like Saul is not interested in playing the card Path to Exile, which is why you would have seen Saul pass, since Saul could have done it on upkeep or, again, draw step to make sure a Spell Queller wouldn't ruin the day. Saul seems content with this Thalia existing, and not even playing the op, not taking damage, just getting a dual land. I guess trying to set up for Miracle Terminus.
Now, Luke vialed in a Supreme Phantom there. Why do it like that? I mean, I'm perfectly willing to chalk this up to inexperience.
Yeah, there's not a particular reason to do so.
Okay.
I guess there is one, which is you're worried that your opponent's going to play Vendilion Clique. That is not a legal spell. That was not something that Luke could have played.
What was that?
That was a 2-mana spell played with a Thalia Guardian of Thraben when there were 2 lands.
Oh, well. It's not,
this is Time Walk. We can't.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that.
We can't change the script. But yeah, just for those at home, if you're boarding in Thalia and spells, please notice that your Thalia does affect you as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just... I mean...
But meanwhile, that spell takes down a 3-mana Search for Azcanta.
To be fair, I'm not even sure Unifying Will Search for Azcanta there was necessarily even the best line. Unified Will is way better trying to counter a sweeper. These blue-white control decks have to play a variety of sweepers because of Meddling Mage, and they're already maxing out on Terminus, so they tend to only have 1 Supreme Verdict. So at that point, you're trying to counter something like a Settle the Wreckage or a Terminus.
Yeah. Well, Saul waits for a Supreme Verdict. Luke is going to go with the Supreme Phantom, number 2. and looks to get in for 4 here.
Yeah, let's see. Saul, I believe, has... Okay, we might as well opt and try to hit that Miracle Terminus first, and then we can play Path to Exile if things don't go as we hope. Actually, no, it looks like there's no Path to Exile in hand, which then makes this whole line of play much more sensible. But yeah, the Terminus in hand is definitely not where you want it.
All right, so he decides whatever that card was, he liked it. He drew it.
Yeah, Saul... Okay, Baneslayer Angel.
Wow.
Now, that's the thing. Your opponent's boarding out all the removal.
Except Luke did not. I see a Path to Exile in his hand.
Yeah, Luke decided to keep Path to Exile, which I thought was interesting at the start, but when, you know what, my opponent's going to board in Baneslayer Angel and Lyra, so I'm going to be ready.
He's like, you may be a big deal in Panama, Saul Alvarado, but I got to tell you, I play against this blue-white control deck all the time back at Clemson, and they always side in the Lyra or the Baneslayer Angel or whatever, and I'm going to kill it.
I would hope Saul was not boasting about the Panama National titles.
All right, you're going to have to pay one more here.
Yeah, I mean, Luke didn't pay earlier. Finally.
Yeah, there you go. He's like, oh, yeah.
There we go. Payment has been made.
Yeah, the iron price.
But the problem with keeping Path to Exile is, you know what your blue-white opponent loves to have? Mana. Mana sounds delicious.
A 5 mana rampant growth here for Saul Alvarado.
Yeah, I mean, this is what, like 6 damage. Saul would go to 3, but then would be able to cast Terminus. Luke would be able to flash in probably a 2-power creature. And then a Collected Company means Luke is pretty likely to win here.
You see Luke is sitting on a Spell Queller.
Yeah, so here Saul is kind of priced in to just hard cast a Terminus for 7 mana.
Right.
You don't really want to pass with Settle the Wreckage when your opponent plays the card Spell Queller, so you're probably just going to hard cast Terminus here. Then that means that Luke is most likely going to flash in the Spell Queller at end of turn, and then try to hit a
clock.
Try to play a Lord. Come on, Saul, pay the 7 mana, please, play. Yay!
The bane of the Time Walk match. Yeah. All right, so 3 cards go under for Luke.
I believe you can choose the order of the card. I remember like this ruling question a long time ago. One of the players, why didn't we flash in Spell Queller with this Aether Vial? That'd have been great. Then
I get, maybe he just values it more as an answer to something like a Settle the Wreckage.
Right, but like if you flashed it in and got this, the game would have been over.
Right.
So as long as you're keeping the card Droxel Captain in your deck, to be fair, and Noble Hierarch, which, to be fair, are cards that you do cut against blue-white control. The games go longer, so you have less of a need for a card like Noble Hierarch. Droxel Captain helps you get into those sweepers like Terminus and Settle, so you tend to have less of a desire for a Lord. But if you have those cards, then for sure I would have flashed into Spell Queller with your opponent at free and tapped out. Just the 2 power is more than enough.
Well, here comes Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
And I think here Saul... Okay, with access to Settle the Wreckage, I can understand wanting to plus, but there's definitely a big incentive to just minus and put the captain a little away. And here Luke is thinking of flashing in the Spell Queller for damage, but
now he has to really think about that Settle the Wreckage. Or a Cryptic Command. Oh, but he's going to go for it.
Yeah, you can still play Collected Company in response. One of the important things about Magic, right? Like you can make I believe erroneous decisions. That is to say, a decision that might not be optimal, debatably. What's worse is then not making the best play from that point.
Sure.
You need to remove the fact that maybe it would have been better earlier and go, what would be the best play at this point? And the best play at this point is probably to put that Spell Queller in, since 2 damage isn't going to get there.
All right, well, here we see
Cryptic Command. Company.
Oh, all right.
We're hoping for another Queller. I think we see a gold blue-white card.
Wow, look at his hands.
There we go. That's good enough.
And that gives you an idea of someone who's playing their first GP. You could see his hands trembling there as he played that Collect Company. Takes game one against someone who's been playing this game two. Sorry, his first game against someone who's been playing this game for a very long time at a very high level. So
far longer than most of us.
Yes. So great job there by Luke.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of longevity, you've been in Magic for. Didn't you run like one of the first tournaments, if not the first one of them?
Well, certainly not the first tournament, but one of the first big tournaments in New York City.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that video because it's awesome. If you haven't seen this video, look up 1994 Magic tournament, Fireball for one. We've certainly got powered up cards, but yeah.
What was so crazy about that to me is we saw Ben Stark Banefire for 0 at the World Championship to get 2 prowess triggers.
Right. It was a good play in 1994, and we've gone down to 0 since then. But here, one important thing to note: Saul's at 5 cards.
Oh wow. Yep, this is not a great start here for Saul Alvarado. And Luke Freeman basically had one of the best cards he could possibly open his game on, Aether Vial.
Yeah, Aether Vial usually stays against these control decks. Just the ability to give flash to all your creatures.
There's a Mausoleum Wanderer for Luke Freeman, flying 1/1, and whenever another spirit enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
Yeah, it's just like a combination of disruption, has immediate, puts a lot of pressure on, easily attacks for 2 or free power down the line. For 1 mana, it's a big package.
And you can also sacrifice it.
Yeah.
To basically tax an instant or sorcery.
Yeah, for sure. I did want to note with Aether Vial, the main use of it post-sideboard, remember that the only counter magic that Saul is likely to keep in is Cryptic Command. Maybe sometimes a Dispel or a Negate, but usually you don't have those cards. Simply because, your opponent's playing Cavern of Souls and Aether Vial. Mana Leak is not fighting a good fight here.
All right, Hallowed Fountain for Luke Freeman. Plays a second Mausoleum Wanderer, triggers, gets in for 2.
Yeah, Mausoleum Wanderer means that something like Settle the Wreckage or Terminus is going to be almost impossible to catch, especially when Saul missing a land drop and ooh, that's bad.
Flashes in an Ambush Viper at the end of the turn.
Yeah, but Ambush Viper's so bad here. There's one card that it gets cleanly, which is Geist of Saint Traft, but most of these creatures have flying.
Yeah, well, Saul's decided he's going to go on offense here.
Yeah.
And attack with his Snapcaster. He's going to just trying to work with the tools he has at his disposal. Again, mulligan to 5 here in game 3. And, sometimes you have to play some Magic not the way Richard Garfield intended.
I mean, okay. The thing for me here is you're so far behind, right? Snapcaster Mage is not changing almost any of that equation. It would change it if your opponent played a Geist of Saint Traft, but even then you're taking the 4 from the Angel and however much from these Mausoleum Wonders. So I don't see the Snapcaster Mage really helping Saul. I mean, for sure Saul can attack since you know that your opponent doesn't have a Supreme Phantom System. They would have just vialed it in. But here, Collect the Company is going to be potentially a ton of pressure.
Yeah, here we go. So Luke didn't take damage from his Hallowed Fountain last turn, but this turn decided he would, and that's because he's casting Collected Company.
Yeah, this one's tough. I might have been tempted to just have a Path to Exile.
There's a Spell Queller.
For the Snapcaster Mage, I would have been tempted to just wait a bit, try to hope to top deck a Path to Exile, and then eventually flash back. It's not optimal, but I don't think the Snapcaster Mage is really going to do anything.
All right, and in for 4 come the Wanderers.
Yeah. But yeah, and by the way, Luke correctly doing Collected Company pre-combat for more damage, just only getting Spell Queller. I wonder how many Path to Exiles were kept in the deck, because I probably wouldn't keep more than 1.
Well, there is 1. It's going to take out the Spell Queller, so the Snapcaster Mage can continue attacking. Maybe. You still that fear of Aether Vial.
Here, with the target being Spell Queller, I think I would have actually preferred it being one of the Mausoleum Wanderers. They're almost certainly going to attack for at least 2 damage every turn until your opponent runs out of cards. But by that point, you're probably lost the game. And it's going to be quite a disruptive threat. And you can see here, while playing that Snapcaster Mage earlier, is so, like, means that Saul doesn't get access to Snapcaster plus Path to Exile and just lost a key tool. When you're down on cards, I understand throwing down Snapcaster.
But look what Saul Alvarado drew this turn. He drew a Spell Queller.
I believe that was in hand with a Vendilion Clique,
okay.
but yeah. Spell Queller is going to be interesting here to eat a Mausoleum Wonder. And I really like that card in the blue-white control list. Although, it's maybe not the best synergy if you're playing Terminus.
Here's another Aether Vial. And now here comes another Collected Company.
We're going to see Spell Queller on it, and we're going to see Vial onto Spell Queller.
Oh, wow. Great turn here from Luke Freeman.
Yeah, this is a ton of damage. You already got +1 from the Spirits. This is why I would have... oh, my. Geist of Saint-Traft, Selfless Spirit. Actually, Rattle Chains? I think I like Geist plus Folly. Your opponent's so constrained on mana that Geist gives +1 damage. It is 2 damage less, so it's not like a non-choice here. You're dealing 6, putting Alvarado down to 8. But then you have Geist of Saint-Traft, which is going to deal 4 at least in the air. Plus the 2 Wanderers is 2 more, so 6. Yeah, you're already representing lethal damage, and Falia means that only a Terminus off the top will give Saul a chance to be in this game.
Terminus off the top would be pretty amazing
But
here.
even then, the Wanderers just sacrifice themselves. And then you have Geist attacking for 2, which is 4 in the air.
Oh, yeah.
which puts Saul down to from 8 to 4. And then you have an extra 6. You can block 1, and that's it. Yeah, even if Saul had the Terminus. Yeah, and this is why, again, that Wanderer should have been exiled. The Snapcaster Mage shouldn't have maybe not been played. Even then, though, I don't think Saul would have won this game. Like, even if you got rid of the Wanderer, even if you went Snapcaster with Path, you wouldn't have been able to win. Like, Snapcaster Path would have dealt with some threats, but you would have still lost. But it would have given Saul a chance at top deck of Terminus and maybe be in this game and match. But as stands, I believe this is going to be a very easy untap, draw card, attack. You're right though. Luke's hands are trembling quite a bit. It's fine. Like we've all started somewhere. I thought like Luke played this game like reasonably well. Like these games can be relatively complex to navigate. So I think you can play 100 matches of this type of matchup and you get so much experience over time. It's, as you said, like Luke keeping that Path. Maybe a Reflector Mage was a better idea than Path to Exile. It's not a great card regardless. But you do want to get rid of Celestial Colonnade, so Reflector Mage with Vial is good. Maybe a Path or 2 is correct. It's really close, though. Path is so bad against a deck like Blue-White Control on average.
So Vendilion Clique comes down for Saul Alvarado. Pushes, was that a Drug Skull Captain to the bottom?
That was great, by the way. I love that interaction. Your opponent taps a for Vial, and you can respond with Vendilion Clique to get rid of the card they had. But because you know that's the interaction, I mean, to be fair, like you're trying to play around Counter Magic or you're trying to play around Vendilion Clique. But the thing is, like, you're going to win against Counter Magic, so you might as well play around Vendilion Clique. But even here, let's see. Clique plus Snapcaster get rid of both sides of the Geist, and that is not lethal damage. Saul will go down to 2. So Luke should have maybe played around this Clique, but I think that would have been a really rough read to even get, though. So, yeah, you just cast the Captain here. If your opponent goes... But you've seen a Spell Queller, so it's kind of close. I mean, at this point, still, you're going to be really far ahead.
All right, so...
You have to block the Angel. You have to block the Snapcast. The Snapcaster might as well block the Geist of Saint-Traft.
So he's at 8.
Well, if you don't block the Angel, you're...
Yeah.
Actually, wait a second. No, you're... Yeah, there's a Folly. This would be lethal damage. This is 8. Yeah. Saul is like, wait a second.
He's like, oh, I don't get to keep anything here.
Yeah, I don't get to choose. I don't get to be picky. This is already 6 damage.
But does get to live another turn here.
By the way, you noticed that sequencing earlier of Luke going Vial into Collected Company, understanding that Folly might be an outcome. That was like a very little thing, but it was good of Luke to notice it. Just in case, it was good sequencing there. I didn't notice it at the time, but I mean, I saw it, but yeah.
All right.
What's the card in
Saul
Luke's hand? Needs a Terminus.
It's not.
A land with Settled... Oh, wow. I mean, the thing with Settle Wreckage, though, it costs 5, and then you just sack a Mausoleum Wanderer.
Yeah. And this is going to be game for Luke Freeman playing in his first match of his first Grand Prix. So, great job here, Luke. You took down a You took down a giant. There's the settle the wreckage for 5.
As long as we
You
show,
remember
as long as we
what-
point to the Wanderer. Wait, what? Wait, what?
Did he just forget what Mausoleum? I'm so sorry. Did he just forget what Mausoleum Wanderer did there?
I sacrifice Mausoleum Wanderer. Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. No, not like this. I'm like, no, Luke, no. I feel so bad for Luke. So bad. I feel for Luke here because he's going to rewatch this video. And if you're watching, Luke, I feel really sorry for you. We've all been there. We've all been there at one point in it. Yeah, I've been there for sure.
You've talked about that extensively, right? That you've, misplays you've gone back and looked at later on camera. We've all done it. I've played on camera. It's also the first time you do it. Pretty daunting, right? You're very aware of that eye over your head.
Yeah, later on you just don't care, but to start with, it matters.
It can put you out of the flow state that you really want to be in when you're playing Magic too.
I mean, Luke is in his first Grand Prix on camera, and wow, all that was necessary was for Luke to point at Mausoleum Wanderer and we were done. Saul was obviously correct to just play the settle. You might as well.
Right.
Just showcase it. You're like, well, I have this, and your opponent's like, yeah, sure, I'll get some basics. Speaking of which, Luke didn't even fetch. Wait a second, Luke didn't fetch basics. Normally with a card like Settle Wreckage, Saul was supposed to remind Luke of the option of fetching basic lands, and Luke didn't search them. So if you're ever in that situation where you play Path to Exile or Settle the Wreckage, you do have to ask your opponent if they decline to search a land now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a really nice change because there was a time when that wasn't the case. That it's better now that it's something you have to remind your opponent of. But I mean, once Saul gets rid of the whole board, we're kind of done. This game is going to be over.
Keep in mind, most Bant Spirit decks probably play 3 basics.
Yeah, no, I saw basic planes like
Still
fanning over the deck at least. Yeah. There's a basic planes. There's a forest and another island. Like you could have at least gotten those out of the deck. But I think Luke was in another mind state there, for sure.
We said Saul Alvarado needed a miracle. We thought we were talking about Terminus.
Yeah, it was a different type of miracle. Yeah, okay, we're going to toggle Noble Hierarch, but we have a Celestial Colonnade. We're going to eat that up.
Oh, boy.
I mean, we're done. We're done the wrong way. I mean, at this point, Saul is just going to take down the game. There's not. Luke had it, and once the board's gone in that world, like the game ended.
Right.
If that still resolves, then yeah, for sure the game ended. It was just presumed that it wouldn't. But yeah, it is kind of over here. So we're just gonna see the conclusion of this match, but it's done. Like nothing is gonna stop Saul's inexorable march to victory.
All right, passes the turn back. I mean, he's at 2. He's got to be pretty respectful of those 2 Ether Vials. We're going to see, is this a Rest in Peace? Yep.
Yeah, Rest in Peace is kind of a weird card. You would think it's decent against a deck with Snapcaster Mage and Search for a Scan. It's okay. But it does cost you a card for the privilege of playing Rest in Peace. And then your Morlun Helland is also deactivated, which is less of an issue, again, because like your creatures generally don't die. They all get exiled. So... yeah, I mean, Rest in Peace is okay, but I usually don't board more than 1 against a deck like Blue-White Control. You never want to draw 2 in a matchup like this. Like 1 might have utility, but being down a card and putting less pressure usually means that I dislike playing a card like Rest in Peace, especially when you have cards like Spell Queller that can tempo out your opponent. I don't think it's necessary.
And now Saul is ready to cash in his Teferi.
And just because Teferi's twin brother Tefero is coming around to help with exiling permanents.
And he's going to take down, draw a card, and take down the larger of the 2 Ether Vials.
At this point, it's just, again, academic. The game, I've said the game is over 4 times in this match. One of those times was clearly too many.
Worth remembering, Saul Alvarado started this game on 5 cards.
Yeah.
and really just was scrambling for most of it.
Where we are in the game, you're probably not going. I would probably not have bothered Field of Ruining here, since you do want your opponent to draw those basics anyways. But then again, they were supposed to be out of the deck, so
he might have thought, well, maybe he doesn't have any.
Yeah. To be fair, the way the game has played out, I kind of respect more getting them out of the deck this way, since that way it was not intent to that your opponent could get the lands. This is a very different problem.
Now Search for Escanta joins Saul's side of the board.
Man, Opt is a powerful card. 1 blue, scry 1, draw a card, exile a permanent. Wow, that's
we saw someone playing Anguished Unmaking. I mean, 3 mana, 3 life. You could just
one
you could
blue
be playing Opt instead.
1 blue is clearly the way to do this.
All right, well, Field of Ruin again. Let's see if there's any more lands.
I kind of like the Rest in Peace. That way Luke gets to potentially have no board, no graveyard.
a true perfect.
Yeah, and Luke's not conceding here because he might as well not do so. I mean, you still have time to draw something, I guess, with the lands, but this game is pretty much over. We're exiling at least 2 permanents a turn. At this point, it's just Saul should play quickly to make sure that Saul wins. But with that Celestial Colonnade, 3 turns is enough to get there. Yeah, Paths to Exile, Negate. Negate a bit of an interesting choice post board. I mean, if you see Path to Exile, that if your opponent keeps it, then it's okay. I do prefer the Dispel to the Negate, though.
All right. So Saul Alvarado now it's just.
Oh, there's a Baneslayer Angel. Why not? Yeah, you just got rid of all the white sources.
Yes. He's like, I'm going to make sure you can't draw a white source either here, or at least a basic one.
Yeah, there's a Temple Garden, and then we have a Negate. Whatever. We're good. We're done. 2 attacks with that Baneslayer Angel. Celestial Colonnade kind of feels like it should be an Angel or Sphinx, right? For Sarah Angel, Sarah Sphinx, since it's a hybrid of those 2 cards.
All right, well, Thalia is going to be the lead off here for Luke.
I would just let that happen, but you might as well, put the nail in
Spell
the
Queller, yeah.
I mean, you might as well let it happen and then draw a card and exile it. Luke's just considering, this is not going well for me.
Pass turn here, we see Opt, Anguished Opt.
Anguished Opt.
Yeah, get rid of the Aether Vial.
Yeah,
he's going to get rid of the white source on his draw step.
I mean, yeah. At this point, you're just. This is fine too. You're just trying to not get a flash creature while you animate your Celestial Colonnade, and swing for lethal damage here.
He's going to get an untapped land instead.
Another Opt. Get rid of the island.
Wow.
Keep.
At this point, if you're Luke, you want your opponent to just exile everything, right? You at least. You at least want to get perfected, but Saul's not going to allow him to do it. He's going to make him keep 2 lands while he gets them at 2 life. Wow, crazy game there. Saul Alvarado has to feel very fortunate to have escaped with a win there. His opponent really missed 2 onboard Mausoleum Wanderers to counter or settle the wreckage.
Just choose 1.
Yeah. Wow. So we got more Magic coming up. We've got a freshly married Hall of Famer coming into the booth.
Freshly wed.
Freshly wed, joined by Marshall Sutcliffe. They'll be bringing you round 2 here at Grand Prix Atlanta. Don't go anywhere.